Join me as you and I and you take a journey to become better writers together and geek out.
Hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite, Written Writ Ralph, talking to you straight from our show here, The Written Writ. Of course, you got Roaming Tony,
Hey.
J.M. DeSantis, and Carl Paolino.
Hey.
Hello.
All the fun people on the fun show. Dude, I am so excited for Garden State Comic Fest this weekend. I'm going to actually probably make it for both days, which is rare for me. I'm going with Tony on Sunday, and I found another way to get there on Saturday.
Oh, cool.
All right. Yeah.
So this is going to be fun for me. And
yeah,
of course,
it'll be good to see you. Are you going to get to walk around this time like you did at Rhode Island?
It will look. It looks like that. It looks like I will actually get to enjoy the comic.
Okay, that's good.
Instead of running around going, ah! That means that I actually get the chance to go to you guys, do a little something, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, well, it was nice seeing you getting to do that. So I'm glad to hear you'll get another chance. Yeah.
Well, the good thing about having 2 days is I don't have to try to get everything done in one day. Even though I want to get a certain amount of stuff done on Saturday, because that's the day that I can put as many videos out, so people go, oh, we should go check out Garden State Comic Fest on Sunday.
Right.
Yeah, it was like, if I remember right, when me and Luke, other friend that drove us, when we went to the other building and we already done with the con, we went up to Ralph. He's still in the first building. You know?
Yeah. I wasn't even halfway down the aisle.
I was like, wow.
I didn't even make it past the first 2 rows or something. They came back. Okay, we're done. What? But I feel I love Garden State Comic Fest. It's one of my favorite shows, no matter what they do it, whether it's the Men in Arena or at this location. And this location is huge. It's beautiful, and there's a lot of stuff happening, and they have so many buildings.
Is the barn again?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's super cool. I said.
He also did Blue Arrow Farm last year in September.
Yeah, he did that one a little later on. Yeah.
Yeah. But there was some pretty bad weather that one, so yeah. We made the best.
Cool.
It was still a good turnout, but
it was so cold, man.
Well, were you? Because I didn't get to see a lot. I was facing Keith Williams, and Buzz was on the other side of me, across from me. But were you inside or were you outside with us?
For the blue one?
Yeah.
I didn't get to go to that one.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that means he was outside.
Exactly.
Well, no,
very far away outside.
There was a pavilion, and it was open on 3 sides. So they
heard you did an interesting job with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, they had some heat lamps. It worked out all right, but it was the wind that was really the killer.
Yeah.
But all the vendors, for the most part, were indoors, and that was nice for them. They lucked out.
That's the way to be. Well, you also have that issue when you go to the Men in Arena, because there's the ice skating rink, and it's on top of the ice skating rink, and the villains are usually the villain area is the ice skating rink, and that is cold.
Yeah,
I always was on villains until last year. For some reason, I wound up on heroes, and I actually was wishing I was back on villains.
Yeah, because it was so hot in the other one. Yeah, the other one was really hot.
And as you can tell by my complexion, I like the cold weather. So I was going back over there to cool off all the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because it's nice and chilly and beautiful. It's just that once you're in there for too long, because they put a fake floor over the ice, and you can feel the ice coming in under your feet.
It's true. It is true.
But it's fantastic, especially during the summer.
Yeah, it's a big change, but it's funny about that too. Oh my God, I feel like I'm dominating. But at Blue Arrow, I was talking to Keith Williams. He was, because we were all cold. I was like, I have extra gloves in my bag, and he's like, no, it's okay, right? I said, you know why I bring the gloves? I said, because of Dave's other show when he puts us on the ice.
Yeah.
There was one year where I couldn't ink pages, so I just I started bringing gloves with me to every show I do, just in case.
We've done some interesting interviews on the ice.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then usually in the interview, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, it's so cold in here." But Garden State is a blast. It's a lot of fun. Carl, you've done Garden State before, right?
I'm sorry, say it again.
You've done Garden State before, right?
I did last January, so that was the first time I did. It was in Aurora, New Jersey. It's in the same place now. Yeah. I was there with
okay.
I was there with Jeff Brennan, and we did the show. I don't know if he'd been there before, but it was the first time I did it. And I think we both moved from the booth to Artist Alley, which I think is a better place to be. It's a funny thing. I don't usually get a chance to walk around and see what's going on. So I did get a couple of minutes, and I'm like, oh, there's another building? I didn't even know there were two buildings. But it seemed like Artist Alley was getting a lot of the foot traffic. Yeah. So it's nice to see that people are genuinely still interested in comic books. And I don't know, there's a little bit of everything, toys and video games. But it's nice to see an interest, especially in the younger kids, that that graphic novels are still something very interesting to them, and I'd like to believe it's growing. I mean, that's my main interest.
But I feel like it is growing. At least the independent scene. The independent scene is growing. It's becoming.
No, wait, where am I trying to point? I'm trying to point the other way. Yeah, no, I agree with you.
I knew he was. We're all today. I just put it up.
It's time for Brady Bunch.
It's like I was just gonna say it's like a weird Brady Bunch. Yeah. It's like, what did you say? There's no one there. Oh wait, there is someone there.
No, it's
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it's true because I taught art for 10 years in public school, and those kids are reading comics. It's just they're not reading comics the way we grew up reading comics. Right. I mean, comics for them, it's mostly digital, and it's not so much even like, because of the phones. I'm sure it's because it's cheaper for them too. Like what we paid for a comic cover price growing up is what they'll pay for a digital copy now to download on their phones. So, it's still a cheap price point. But, there's still kids that are interested in superheroes. It's just, it's broader now. Like Raphael said, there's a lot more. Well, I mean, I guess there's been reports now, like, DC and Marvel want to jump on the manga thing, but it's more independent. It's more manga stuff now.
Well, when we were kids, it was cheap entertainment. I mean, it was like you could get it at the newsstand. You didn't have to go to the comic store. Like you can buy them anywhere. They were like 65 cents. It was like cheap entertainment. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like the kids today, like getting stuff on their phone, it's cheap entertainment. Exactly. Yeah, comic now is like $6. It's like
right.
If I was a kid, I don't think I would get the $6 out of the way.
Yeah. So
it's so
Yeah, that's the only thing is the kids are going that way with it, more digital, and even think about it for them. Like, okay, well, with inflation, maybe $6 isn't that bad for them, but if they can take that $6 and buy 6 different comics with it, I'm sure they'd rather do that. Yeah.
And if you go to a comic store, you can actually go to the dollar bin and get 6 different comics.
Right. And look, I'm speaking as somebody that still loves. I want to smell the ink and have it in my hand.
But, me and Rob are the same. But we're print guys mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
come on, Tony, you knew this.
A whole big thing over here that I have to get rid of because I keep worrying that a flood's gonna come
again.
Lose it that way. I'd rather sell it
again.
Exactly.
It's worth it. Yo, it's worth this, man. Donate it. Just.
Yeah, come on now, Tony.
Just one morning, pass by comic book store, leave everything there, and just keep driving.
Yeah.
Not worth this, but not worth what we were told it was worth.
Oh, when we were
kids, or not worth what they tell you it's worth.
Fortune.
Not worth what they tell you it's worth when you actually try to sell it. There's a different story when you actually try to, So.
Yeah. If they'll even take it.
Well, that's why I said leave it there and drive off.
Yeah.
I find that if you sell it on your own, which is a lot of work, you'll get way more money, but it's a lot. Yeah. That's why you have all these guys now on those auction sites selling all their books.
Yeah, the online platforms. I mean, just eBay alone, there must be 1 million comics on eBay right now. And yeah, but that is the best way if you're looking to sell your collection. I mean, I've evaluated collections before, and I always tell the person the same thing. Do you want the most amount of money? Sell them one at a time yourself online.
Yeah.
That's the only, otherwise expect to get 5 to 10% of what you believe it is worth.
Yeah.
And I still get people saying to me, well, what about the, what is it called? The Overstreet Comic Guide. And I'm like, you know, if you could find the right person who's interested in that particular book and is willing to pay you something for that particular grade, then you can sell it.
Yeah.
But if you can't find that person, it's worth, you know, 5% of what the book is, what the grade is, you know, the grading is going to tell you. And it's not entirely fair. I mean, you know, vendors in general, they got to make a profit, and they're going to put in a lot of time, you know, evaluating things. And so my particular favorite is I like to buy slab books. I like to buy them with the grade. I look for the highest grade possible. That's my particular favorite.
It's become a recent favorite of mine.
Nice. I saw you reaching for something. I was like, is he going to pull a slab out and show
he
us?
is. He has slabs.
I can.
He's sitting in some kind of weird collector's heaven.
Tony and Ralph give me shit about it all the time.
Oh, nice.
That's cool.
Oh, that's so cool.
It took me like, 2 years to wait for this?
Oh, that's right. You've been waiting for that one.
Yeah.
Was that a gold label? Was that autographed?
Yep. Gold label, autographed.
Very nice.
I'm really good friends with the guy that made the series.
Okay.
Yep.
Rich Davis.
Yep, Rich Davis.
Well, since we're showing off a little bit, I just got this back from my buddies over at JJL.
9.8. Wow.
They got me a 9.8 on my first issue, so I'm real excited about that.
That's your own book. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's my book. That's my series, Spontanea.
Yeah, the first graded book I got was from Dirk Manning, and it was a 9.4. All of my graded comics except for one are 9.4 or above.
Not bad. That's pretty good.
The only thing lower is an 8.5.
Decent.
Yeah.
And I got it for free in a whatnot giveaway.
As long as you got it for free, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't pay for the 8.5.
Nope. I also didn't pay for the two. Well, I did pay for the two, Rich Davis. But, yeah.
So, Carl, let's start with you.
Sure. What's going on?
Who you are, what you do, all the good
yes,
stuff.
Thank you, Tony.
Go for it.
Okay, who I am. Well, let's see. I've had a long career in the entertainment industry, so I've produced, directed. I do a lot of art direction. I've produced animation, directed animation, done a lot of special effects work, makeup effects, prosthetics. I've worked on Broadway shows. I've worked in print ads. I've worked on music videos, a lot of different things. But, you know, it's a funny thing as you get to a certain point in your career. Oh, there's my latest creation. And, you know, you get to a career and it's like, you know what? I miss comic books. So I said, you know, something I've been wanting to do since I was just a small child was produce my own comic series. And, you know, you think to yourself, like, you understand, you know, the writing, the direction of it, the, you know, the application of the illustration, the storytelling. And I said to myself, I need to start from scratch. So like I started picking up, you know, the old Spider-Man and, you know, the anthologies, the, you know, so they have like those first 20, 30 issues of everything. Mm-hmm. And then I started picking up new stuff. And I said, you know, I'd like to tell my story a slightly different way. I'd like to tell it as if it was a screenplay, because that's my actual background.
Makes sense.
And that's how Spontanea came about. I wanted to create a superhero and have the audience experience the creation of the superhero. And that's, I say, we just finished our 6th issue. but we have the next 3-4 issues in production. So we're going to trade paperback very, very soon, probably in the next month or two. I'm searching for the right publisher for the first 6 issues. It's looking like those first 6 issues, the first volume is going to be about 170 pages. And I couldn't be more excited. The other part of it is like, this book in particular, the reason I had these slabs was because, let me see, I got to go left to right. It's a little weird how this thing works. There it is, left to right. Was, there was a limited run, only a couple of thousand books. So now they're kind of like, they're collector's items because, you can't print anymore. That was printed 2 years ago. So we're going to go to trade paperback. And then I'm working on the second volume, which is issues 7 through 12.
Right. Wow. Let me ask you both of this because, it's funny how the independent market has gotten. I've seen people go, I should have kept a book or two because this book is worth this much now because, it was a limited run in the get-go. And now I find it on eBay for so much money. Are you both finding that, with your books, you are finding issues that are like costing an arm and a leg to get now? Either way.
Answer first, or you want to answer first?
Either JM or Carl, either way you go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were asking me. So I haven't
both of you, yeah.
I haven't seen any of my books. I should probably do a search, but I'm going to let out a little secret here. So I always keep 3 copies of everything I do. One's a reading copy. One's a copy for keeps. Number 3 is my investment copy. Because if I start seeing people selling my stuff for a lot of money, I can pull one out and be like, hey, or tell a friend to be like, sell it and I'll give you a cut, Yeah, no, I've been doing that since I started. So, but I haven't seen any of my books come up. Nobody cares. Not yet, at least.
Carl?
Well, again, I'm like the newcomer here, so I had a slightly different take. So basically what I have noticed is this, and this is about the only thing that I could give you as verifiable, that a year ago I would be selling these issues for $4 or $5 each, and now I'm selling them for $15 to $20 each. When we were at New York Comic Con, we were able to get a good dollar value for the book. I mean, originally I planned on trying to get a distribution deal, but it didn't work out. So I decided to grassroots it and, distribute myself. And I'm not disappointed. The numbers are decent. We did really good at New York Comic Con. I was working with Vivid Panel, which is a group. They'll be there again this coming October. And they had a lot of independent books. And they're always looking for new independent books to represent artists and writers.
Nice.
And I can't say enough about Thomas. Him and his team did an amazing job. And I was autographing a lot of books, and that's how we were selling them. And that's like, the new going price. So I can't, what Jay was saying was, hold on to some copies for yourself. I mean, I try to hold on to maybe 50 to 100 of the first copy, because once they're gone, someone else has them. And, I don't want to be the person to like not have my own book, So yeah, I see the numbers going up on the independent books.
Yeah.
And I see the interest. Sorry to say, Marvel and DC, I'm seeing the interest go down and down. And if you just look at the numbers in general, how many copies they're printing of each book. I mean, it's in the tens of thousands, but just a decade ago, they were higher than they are now.
Oh, definitely.
And the independent books are becoming widely popular. I'm also noticing that the numbers of copies that you find in libraries, school libraries, of the graphic novels, so the compilation, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 issues, that's becoming more widespread also, which is very exciting. So I don't know. I think things are going well. I'm excited to do it. It's a lot of fun. And, it's fun. It's really funny. Last year, I was at 4 different shows where I was also opposite Keith Williams. It was like, hey, there's Keith.
Williams.
It's really funny because when I met him again about 2 years ago, we were at maybe 3 years ago, we were at what is it, Terrificon up in Mohegan Sun.
Love Terrificon, yeah.
And it's like we had lost track of each other, but we both went to School of Visual Arts a long time ago.
Wow.
And I had to reintroduce myself all over again. It's like, don't you remember we used to hang out? It was really kind of funny. So now every time I do a show, it's like he's literally right across from me. It's really kind of funny.
That's funny. We love Keith Williams, and he's going to be at Garden State Comic Fest.
Yeah, he does a lot of conventions. He does a lot.
Oh, Keith, yeah. Keith's always at a convention. I was talking to him at I forgot where it was. I was talking to him, and he was telling me, yeah, sometimes I get this close from my house, and I don't even get to go home.
Oh, I'm thinking I saw him 2 weeks ago. Where was that? Oh, out in Long Island, they have Charles who does the hot flip shows.
Oh, the hot flip show, yeah.
Yeah. I saw him there. He was like, I never got to talk to him. I was like opposite. I don't know if you guys know Jimmy Gambino. He does all the art pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy was great to talk to. It's one of the things I look forward to at these shows is to have a good, table partner, somebody nearby that you could have a good time with. So that when the foot traffic slows down, you got someone to talk to, you got someone to watch your table, you run to the men's room, you run out to get something to eat,
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the game. But it was the first time I met Jimmy, and he was just absolutely awesome. We were having a great time 2 weeks ago.
I gotta admit, I've helped out enough people because I'll be passing by the booth. Ralph, can you watch the booth for a minute? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'd go do your thing.
I just had that happen at Monroe Pop Fest last year. I was helping this one guy I know, Jason Douglas, with his table.
Jason, yeah.
He's like, hey, man, I need you here. I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, all right. Hey, man, I need to go run to this booth. All right.
Yeah, because when you're behind the table, you're stuck there. Especially if you don't have somebody helping you out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I became friends with Jeff Brennan. We were out in Queens. We were in Flushing. What was it called? Cosmic Con is the first time I met him. We were like right near each other. And I was like, I know you. How do I know you? And then I realized we both were at MTV at the same time. He was doing, I can't tell you what. It might have been Daria at the time. He might have been working on Daria. I was working on Celebrity Deathmatch. So it was like, I remember seeing you. And it's really funny. It's like, that's like 20 odd years ago. And we just we hit it off all over again. And now we try to, whenever we do a show, it's always like, put me next to Jeff.
I love Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Yeah, it was.
Crazy time.
Didn't they try bringing it back like a few years ago?
I've been hearing that story for 20 years. I don't think it's coming back.
No. I think they did try to do like one season like 2 years ago. I don't know.
I don't know what happened.
I'm with Carl. I've been hearing the same rumor for a long time. I've even talked to
Carl.
Can
they do that show today, though? Can they do that show today? Everybody's so sensitive. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's a good point. But the thing is, MTV was always a little, I don't want to say risque, maybe just edgy. So if there was any network that could pull it off, it would probably be MTV.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always getting some fans coming by and they're saying like, hey, you're going to be involved. And I said, I don't think so. They never called me. Originally, so that some of you gentlemen already know this, I created the production line for the puppets. So I was doing a lot of puppet work at the time.
That's awesome.
And they said, we need a lot of puppets really, really fast. How can you do it? And they were making things out of clay in those days. They sent over these. In fact, those are the two guys they sent over, the Nick and the Johnny.
Yeah.
And they were like laid out on a piece of tin foil. And they weighed like 4 pounds each. They went, how do we animate them? I said, well, you can't, they're too heavy. They don't stand under their own weight. So we created at my studio at the time, which was Carl Paolino Studios, we created the wire armature. we started doing sculptures and molds and casting them in lightweight foam rubber. And that's how the show launched.
That's
And
awesome.
it was one of the ways that we were able to produce the animation very quickly. In fact, I got one of my little friends here. This is from a series I did after Celebrity Deathmatch. Let's see. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
There he is. He's got his gun. So we've been doing this kind of show for a while. And you can see like he's kind of squishy. You can see he's made out of foam rubber. He's squishy.
Oh, cool.
So he's pretty light. He looks like hard plastic, but you can manipulate him. You can move him around and make him do things. And, like the eyebrows and everything are clay, and the mouth was like replaceable. We had a whole list of mouths, like A, E, I, O, U, so we can make them talk.
Nice.
And that's how we basically got into the MTV thing. They came to us and said, like, we need this fast. They're like, well, what is fast? I mean, stop motion animation could take years, And they said, no, we need it fast. And
quick question. So that's how you made them talk, like just replacing their mouths with the different movements?
Yeah, we made these little mouths out of a Sculpey clay. So we could, like, sculpt them, and then we could put them on a piece of tinfoil. We bake them. And then we just replaced them. And if you look at a lot of the guys who
I always thought they just like moved it, took a picture, moved it again, took a picture.
That's one way of doing it. The problem with that is you can't get the extreme vowels because unless you build the jaw into doing that. And the problem with that is just more time consuming. The guys who worked on this Celebrity Deathmatch, then they worked on my next TV series, a project I did for Canadian television. And then when they left that, they all went to the coast and they all did Robot Chicken. And
I was going to ask you that because your stuff looks very similar to what. Yeah.
The funny things about Robot Chicken was they even found a faster way of doing it. They would like go to Toys R Us, buy all the dolls, and then they just after them.
And then just use the toys,
Yeah, that's what they ended up doing. But, in some ways it worked against them because the animators were always complaining. They said, half the time we're animating, we're moving the arms and legs, and the other half the time we're cursing at the puppets because they weren't built to be animated. So they're like, you move an arm and then it slowly moves, and you got to move it back up and you try to get a shot. And they were just like, oh, we hate these things.
Oh, they move weird.
Yeah, they have that weird shuffle,
exactly.
Toy
shuffle.
The Gumby shuffle, we used to call it.
Oh man!
So they found quick ways of doing things. They actually got rid of the mouths, and they used to make these little digital mouths. And in the editing room, they used to drop on the different digital mouths, and that's the way they've been doing it for the last I don't know how many seasons of Robot Chicken. I mean, it works in their favor. They spent more time in the less time physically animating and more time in post-production. And it's not a bad thing. I mean, our way of doing it was we started from scratch and we created the puppets from scratch. And, my friends like John Allemond, who also does a lot of shows up and down the East Coast here. I've done shows with him. He worked on Daria and he worked on a lot of these shows. And he was designing characters at the time. And it's been a lot of fun. So it's really funny. You lose track of a lot of these artists. And then 15, 20 years later, you're running into them all again. They're all doing pop culture cons. And it's like, it's like we all got gray hair now or no hair, because we were in our 20s and 30s at the time, and we're a little older than that now. So it's been quite a trip. A lot of fun.
So let me ask you this: you've seen the trends and how they've gone, and how Robot Chicken is doing things now. Is there a difference between what you were doing? I know what Tony was saying is true. If you actually probably couldn't get away with doing Celebrity Deathmatch anymore. So is there a difference between then and now?
The difference is the type of material you could get away with. For example, one of the early things we did was we were making replacement parts of characters because in Celebrity Deathmatch, heads get cut off, arms get cut off. And one of the things they sent us a colored chip once, like from a paint store, the little paper chip, and it was like this weird orange, and they said we can't do blood red. This is red. And it's like, no, it's like bright orange, And they said, well, the censors said we can't. You're cutting off people's heads, but you have to make the blood orange. So we were doing things like that. And the other thing I remember, we kind of made some puppets about what was the big show on Paramount at the time? Oh, it was Star Trek Next Generation. And we were doing some of the puppets for like Captain Picard and some of these other guys. And we were not making them look very respectable because those were the designs. I didn't create the designs. They sent us designs. We did them. And that Star Trek episode, I don't think it ever got shot or aired because there were some people at Paramount who said, don't make fun of Star Trek.
Damn.
But I did make all the puppets. I made all the characters from the Next Generation.
I remember when Angel did that.
I never see them again.
I remember when Angel did that. They had a puppet of Angel, but it was supposed to make fun of him. It was supposed to look funny. I don't know.
Angel puppet. That was a great show episode.
Yeah, he got a date and stuff. He could score and still he's a puppet. Yeah, all right.
So Carl, tell us a little bit about Spontanea.
Yeah, so this is all came out of that feeling that I wanted to get back to it. I wanted to do something that I loved since I was a child, which is create a comic series. And I'll be very specific as to one of my goals. I've been pitching projects both in Hollywood and New York to get animated series off the ground or live action projects off the ground. And one of the things we do is we spend hours and days and weeks and we create all this artwork, and we spend thousands of dollars to create all these pitch projects. Then we fly to California, we do a bunch of places, we pitch at Disney and Warner Brothers and wherever else, and then we come back here and there's all the Paramount projects. And then when we're done pitching, if we don't get anything positive, we take it and it goes up on a shelf, and then that's the last we see of it. So it occurred to me, usually during the COVID time, the last 3 years, I said, I spend all this time and money and energy creating a great pitch with characters and story arcs and all sorts of conflicts. And then I do nothing with it if I can't get it sold. So I said, what if I just turned it into a comic book? It would be easier to pitch it because now it's all digital. I could just email it to a producer. And if it never gets picked up, I got a comic series, and a comic series is there forever. So that was one of my hidden agendas for Spontanea, was to create this series that would have some legs to it. It's something that could go somewhere in the future. If I can't sell it now, maybe my kids will sell it, 20 years from now, 30, 50 years from now. So
it's a good thought. It's a very good thought.
Thank you.
I think that's the best way to work, though, because then you're not wasting anything. Something's not just sitting on the shelf.
You spend so much time. I mean, you got to sit there and say, what's worth more? The amount of money I spend on this, I hire artists, or the amount of physical time I put in. You put all this into it. It's a shame to just lose a great idea. I'll tell you a funny story. I was just looking on, I think it was Facebook or something, and somebody posted this little clip that was called, you remember the movie Goodfellas? It was a Scorsese movie with Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro and whatever. Yeah. And somebody posted this very short.
We saw Goodfellas.
Do you know which one? Do you know what I'm talking about? This clip? This clip was called Godfellas, and they kind of took the Goodfella characters and they turned them into Jesus and Judas and it was very, very short. It was 20 seconds long, and it's wait a second, I did that 20 years ago in a TV series I created for Canadian television, and we called it Godfellas, and we did a whole piece. It was about 5 minutes long, and we actually screened it for Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro.
Wow.
In Manhattan. We actually screened it for them. And it was a great little piece that we did. I don't have any pictures I could send you this very second, but so it just goes to show you, when something gets around enough, when people start copying you, I always feel like you made it. When people are copying what you're doing.
That's one of the best ways to get most flattering ways to get stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man. And so what's Spontanea about?
Well, okay, small town called Tranquility, which was once thriving, is now in decay. And the big businesses are moving out. Why? Because you can buy things over the internet. And a lot of tech companies are moving in and they're up to something. And we haven't given away what they're up to yet, but they're spending a lot of money on high tech, and monsters are being seen in the middle of the night, wandering the streets, mechanical creatures. And all of this gives birth to the technological character Spontanea, who is actually a person with some heightened ability, nothing I would call really superhero, but definitely heightened ability. And along with a bunch of other young techies who are in their 20s and who are doing really well and working for these tech companies and realizing that they're up to something. It's a big mystery and it unfolds each issue at a time. And we're kind of like reaching that point as we approach issue 10. And I think by volume 2, the cat will be out of the bag. And hopefully I keep this going, because it's something I've always wanted to do, is keep that mysterious thing going, inventing new characters, bringing in new people. And the whole comic book really applies to everybody. I'd like to think I have a nice cross section of characters, and they're interesting. I'd like to think they're interesting, and they're all ages, and it's very friendly to people of all cultures. I'd like to believe.
It looks like you got something good going, and if you're at issue 10, then it's definitely something good going.
Yeah.
That longevity says something, especially in the independent market.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I found was interesting was I was originally, since a couple of the main characters are women, I wanted to hire a woman artist for the part. And I was looking for a particular level of quality. And when I spoke to some friends at Marvel and DC, and they said, you can't hire the women who could do this good, work this good. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, Marvel and DC got them, So I had to start looking around different places. But I've got a couple of artists, some living in Italy. I have an artist living in Argentina, another in Mexico. So I had to reach out and, go with what I could afford. I'm not Marvel. I'm not DC. I'm a very small company, Comic Book Kid Publishing. And I'm having the time of my life. What can I tell you?
It looks like it, and I can feel the passion in your projects, which is all good, because that's what you want to see. And it sells books when people go, oh, look, he actually likes what he's doing.
It's part of the fun. It's part of what you're selling, right? You got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that's a good jumping on point for J.M. DeSantis here, because he does amazing work. And I loved what you did with all the Salem witches, to get yourself into a whole different section of things.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, witches, I'm not done with witches. I can say that. But no, I mean, those were just a couple of, that was just a starting point for stuff, testing the market. I want to do a whole art book of witches, but
Oh, nice.
That'll come. And but yeah, 2023 I started doing everybody's been telling me for years to go ahead and start doing horror shows, because most of my stuff's horror, dark fantasy, and they're like, what, comic shows, fine, keep doing them, but maybe you'd be doing better if you do horror shows. So
I would have to agree with that. I've done a number of horror shows, and your stuff is right in there.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. I was doing these Discord calls with my friend Jackie Musto, and she was like, look, I'll just I'm like, I can never find them. I remember, so pre-COVID I used to do searches. The only thing I could find was the whatever the show is in Parsippany, New Jersey, that I could never get into because they wouldn't even respond to my emails.
New Jersey Horror Show? No, New Jersey Horror Con?
It's not the New Jersey Horror Con and Film Festival, because I have done a bunch of those, and those guys are awesome. But no, I forget what it is in Parsippany. And it's not Monster Mania either. Chiller Fest.
Chillerfest. Oh yeah, that's hard to get into.
Yeah, Chiller would never get back to me. That was the only one I knew of, right? And I would type in fantasy shows, and maybe Dragon Con or something would come up, and I'd be like, I can't at the time travel that far. So Jackie was like, no, let me look. And I guess dumb me, right? Because like it's not like I'm so old that I don't know how the internet works, but she did a search and she's like, look at all these shows. You can go to this one, you can go to that one. So I was like, all right, I have 16 shows already booked that are comic shows. I'll just start booking some horror shows. That's how I got to 38, Raphael. That and then people asking me because they're like, hey, you're doing shows. You want to come and do mine? And it's like, yeah, I will. So yeah, the witches were part of that because I was starting to do the horror shows. And I already do a lot of like Nosferatu stuff, which this next year will be a good year for it because they're doing Robert Eggers is doing a remake that's coming out in what is that? Yeah, you're gonna have to search a bit for some of my artwork. I
don't worry about it. It just makes it interesting because it shows you off too. So that's always good. I feel like artists forget sometimes that you might want to show off where you are, what shows you do.
Right. No, so that one's not even a horror show. The one that you just pulled the picture up from, that one was the punk rock fest in
it looks like it's inside of a stadium.
Yeah. So that was another thing. I'm doing the horror shows and then the horror people are like, oh, you know what you should try out? You should try out a punk rock fest, or you should do like an oddities fair. And I'm like, all right, cool. So
where else I would suggest? There's tattoo shows.
Yeah, I want to try out those as well. I mean, it's just, I'm finding, and look, I'm not saying anything against the comic crowd. I find the horror crowd is more welcoming to me, and they're a little bit more eclectic. So far, I've found.
Do you think it's because the comic crowd tends to like, even though there's more horror books now,
yeah,
but the comic crowd tends to like what they like, and they tend, and when you show them horror comic books, they kind of get weirded out.
Which I don't get, because I remember growing up, right? And I'm 41. I was born in 1982, right? But I remember, okay, and this is before like Spawn hit the market, which of course I like fell in love with Spawn, right? But I mean, I liked there was a Batman comic. I can't even remember it off the top of my head, but I just remember the cover. It had this like shrunken head on the cover, right, and it had stuff like oozing out of the eyes. And like, I remember like reading Creature Commandos and scary stories. And, I don't get why. I don't know. When I was growing up, like
there was a lot of horror books. Yeah, I agree.
Right. I was still reading superhero stuff in the sense that, like, I was doing Batman for a bit. I was into X-Men when everybody was into X-Men, and I was a big Wolverine fan. Then when I found Ghost Rider, I really felt like I found a character I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was reading Danny Ketch because I was post Johnny Blaze, but he was still in the book. My brother was reading Spider-Man. But there were still all these other books that I was reading. I mean, I still remember some of my, yes, they're superheroes, but they fell into obscurity for a while. I had the first run of that 4-issue miniseries of Cloak and Dagger. And like that always stuck out. Yeah. Like, it wasn't all the guys running around in spandex that I was reading all the time. So I guess I just, from that perspective, I don't get why some comic fans are so attached to just superhero books when. But
it's funny because those same guys will attack their same thing.
Right.
Oh, it's not done right. I'm like, superhero stuff. Well, how is it not done right?
Right. Yeah. So no, I agree, and it's not everyone, because I have fans that are older, and definitely they're open to seeing new stuff in comics. But yeah, I do find. Yeah, they're a little bit more like they have like a focus, and there's a certain thing they want to see. And don't get me wrong, there's horror fans that definitely like, there's the people that want the Universal stuff, or there's the people that want just like slasher film stuff, But yeah, they're I can even sell my Chadiana book, which is dark fantasy, at a horror show, like, because You know, they just
it's dark
they're
fantasy.
fine. Yeah.
It fits
Yeah.
right in. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's so. You've had this one up for a little bit. That was a commission piece from a repeat commissioner.
Nice.
Yeah, the second comment down there. Yeah, but him and his wife Maria, Bo and Maria, they usually get things from me, and she does cosplay. So a lot of times, it's happened where she has turned either my artwork or another person they've commissioned into one of her cosplay pieces.
Nice. I love when people do that.
Yeah, so I think she's looking into doing that Wicked Witch one. Well, you know, we'll see.
I got to see how she looks when she does it.
I mean, you said you're looking into trying to get into horror cons or tattoo conventions. Monroe, Michigan does both of those every year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yep.
And Michigan's a little bit of a trip, but yeah. Oh, there's our Kid in a Comic interview. So
I love a Kid in a Comic, and I feel like you just fit right into the whole thing, you know.
Well, yeah. So it's a funny thing. I'm happy to give good news because I was worried there for a second. And I won't go into the whole thing. So I wrote The Beast, right? Which is the comic that I'm showing off over there, and Len Danovich is doing the artwork on it.
Yeah, I talked to both of you at Garden State Comic Fest.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, actually, it was at Winterfest where Len came up to me and was like, "JM, you look like the type of guy that can get stuff done." And he's like, "I need a writer I got asked to do a project. I don't know about it yet, but I need somebody to work with me on a script." And I didn't hear from Len for 2 months. Okay. And then he was throwing stuff at me and went like, "We got to get this done in like a week." And I was like, "All right, just give me a couple days and let me come up with something." So, but yeah, so I wasn't sure about the future of the Beast. Let me put it that way. But
oh wow,
well. Something was going on. So, but the Beast is going to continue, and then I haven't like officially announced it yet, except it's been like on my podcast, and that's kind of what I'm cleaning up here because I got to get this done this week. John asked me, John Canacri, the publisher, he asked me if I had any of my own properties to bring into the book. So, I pitched him a couple, and he liked Chadiana, so I'm going to be doing a new brand new Chadiana story for A Kid in a Comic.
I love that. I've seen other creators do that where they take their comic or their product and they're actually putting it in A Kid in a Comic, like Rob Powers with Pinguino.
Yeah, well, John's original thing was to have people bring in stuff that they either already had done, like Tim Jones is just putting in, already finished comics of, his Sour Grapes. So, yeah. And, it's just the ones that him and John agreed, like, are the ones that they want to put in the paper, right? So it's like no work for Tim. Or it's a case where, say, like, he approached me about Chadiana, it's a character that I already know and I'm working on. And if I'm going to adapt something new, it's not a lot of stress, like it's something I'm going to want to work on. And I have a similar theory when I work with artists occasionally, like I want to give them as much leeway as possible because if I don't, then I feel like it's going to be miserable for them and they won't do a good job. So yeah, you always want somebody to feel good about what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. They'll produce better work, right? So yeah, John's theory on it was always to have people bring in stuff that they were already working on. The Beast was just one of those things where he had a spot open, and Len was somebody he was interested in, and then Len tapped me to write it, and we came up with something that I really like. Teamwork. I mean, Len and I were firing stuff back and forth, and we came up with the character Eugene the Beast Kelly, who's a private detective. And yeah, I've never written a noir piece before, so it was a little bit of a step outside the box, for me. But I've enjoyed it, and I want to keep going with the character. So
I definitely want you to keep going because I love noir characters.
yeah, no, he's a lot of fun and gruff and everything, so it's good. Yeah. So yeah, now starting in, I think, February, there's going to be 2 comics of mine. One that I just wrote,
Right.
which Len is illustrating, and another one that I'm writing and doing the artwork for.
Double work.
But I promise that I'm not trying to take over a kid in the comic. That's not what's happening. I don't.
Let me ask you this, because you're doing both types of books now, and I've asked the comic strip guys, because it's a whole different thing to do a comic strip than it is to do a comic book, because you have to figure out how to tell a story or how to tell a bit of a story in a nice way so that you can tell it and keep people interested and not feel like you're shorting people. How are you able to do it?
Well, okay. So there's a 2-part answer to this. And when it's me, it's never a short answer, right? I'm surprised I can do your interviews because I ramble on too much. But
well, you give all the great information, so it works.
Right. So here's a funny thing. I mean, I wouldn't say it's really like, something to add to my resume, but my first published work really was in my school newspaper, and I was doing an ongoing comic series, and it was a comic strip format, and it was like a group of vampire hunters. So yeah, it was high school. It probably wasn't the best stuff in the world, but I was already kind of learning how to tell a story in parts that way. Yeah. I hadn't done it since then, and yeah, I really had to. But there was a little bit of experience I had with it where I knew how the ink would print on newsprint and how it would change the artwork, and I had to be very careful about that and how much words I can fit into a box. And both Len has learned and my letterer Mindy Lopkin has known for a long time that I push those rules quite a bit. I'm not quite Alan Moore about it, but I get close sometimes, and but yeah, it was since nowadays I do a lot of pre-writing and plotting. I just had to make sure that each comic would give enough to move the story forward and then end on some cliffhanger, even if I tried to make the cliffhanger as powerful as possible. I think maybe 1 or 2 it was just like an okay thing, but it still would want you would still want to lead into the next issue and see what's I don't get any fan mail for it, but John says it's been a popular the Beast has been popular for a kid in the comic, so yeah,
yeah. And
something to get recognized for 20 years down the line. Somebody goes,
that's how it works.
The Beast, and it's like, oh, thanks. I wish I knew then.
Come up to you and be like, "Oh my God, you did the Beast!"
Right.
You want to say something, Carl?
No, I'm enjoying it. Please go on.
Okay. I heard another voice. I was like, okay, who said what? Oh my God, Kid in the Comic is fantastic, folks. Go check it out. I feel like there's not enough of this type of stuff that's done anymore, and I feel like all the comic people are shooting themselves in the foot because they're not trying to get the next generation into comics.
Right. Well, and that's a funny thing. So 2 things about that too. One of the reasons that John did it as a newspaper was the nostalgia factor, which I meet a lot of guys and older women too that are just like, yeah, like this, it's even on the right paper, it's got the right smell or whatever. I don't want to speak too much, but John has been asking about digital platforms as well, and I've been talking to him about that. Because he feels like, although he wants the nostalgia factor, again, he wants to, if the younger audience is reading it digitally, he still wants to make sure he hits them. So I think he's got some interest in it.
But that makes sense though, because it's web. A lot of it is now web comics, which are actually comic strips.
Right.
So you might as well do both. Yeah.
Yeah, it works in that format. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, I'm forgetting, you're asking me about doing writing comic strips, but I did Gentleman Cthulhu as a web comic on its own site weekly updates for, I don't know, 3 years straight, you know. Well, there were some, 2.5 years, let's say, you know. But yeah, it was like, you know, you just, if you, and I did actually Chadiana, the first graphic novel that had gotten picked up by Rosarium, and that's a whole interview to do. But yeah, like I was publishing that online too. I did like 72 pages with weekly updates, and or maybe it was bi-weekly. I'm forgetting now, but yeah, there were, you know, I mean, it's a perfectly viable way to publish it, a book, you know, especially if you don't have the money to start printing books and going to shows, like you can, you know, build it online. My friend Jackie Musto, I mentioned, that got me like the lists, the big list of horror shows, and basically changed my life for the future now. Her two of her comics, K&P and Lady Skylark, were all done one page at a time as web comics, and then she would collect them into trades.
It's
and K&P, she finished with 6 trades. 6, you know, 5 issue per trade trades. And, you know, I remember, and I don't want to speak for her, she was feeling a little down on her luck one day after she had finished it, you know. And I'm like, Jackie, we're, you know, and it was a couple years ago, and we're about the same age, but I won't repeat for her sake. But, you know, I was like, Jackie, nobody our age has 6 trades. Like, you you know, you're doing really good, Jack.
Exactly.
And that's not the only book you have, you know. So
I think sometimes we forget, you know, we're doing all this stuff and we don't see it as anything because we're doing it and we're not paying attention to it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, speaking of which, Carl, what happened to Penny Dreadful?
Oh, lots of things. Nothing I need to repeat. Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing with her now. I'm rewriting the whole Penny Dreadful thing. There's, you know, the little girls, some strange things happen around her, and you know what that's all about. I'm rewriting it as a graphic novel, and it's going to be on the thicker side, 45 pages.
Nice.
I think I found the right artist, and she lives in Italy, and she's doing an amazing job on it. And it is for younger kids, but it's got that little spooky thing for younger kids to get them interested, you know, because like if you really want, you know, if you want younger kids like 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 13-year-olds to read it, it's got to have a feeling of like 15-year-old, 16-year-old dialogue, because that's what they're always looking up for. You know, they don't want to read something on their age appropriate. They want to read something that's a little edgy, a little scary. So I've rewritten it, and I don't want to give you, I can't talk about too much because it's being done right now. But I did find 2 artists who are both women, and that's who I wanted to illustrate the book, you know, an illustrator and a colorist. My colorist, I've used her a couple of times on Spontanea. Now she's just doing the new Penny stories, and she lives in Argentina, and I'm packaging now a bunch of Spontanea books to ship to her, because I've just figured out that whole dynamic, like shipping books, comic books overseas or through Mexico or South America. It can get pretty expensive. So you got to figure out just the right way, just to, you know, what's the value? You got to put it on the form for customs. It's like, oh, $1, you know, because you don't want them to pay duty tax. You know, there's so many little ins and outs. I was mailing some stuff to one of my artists in Mexico, and it was like, it went out, literally came back to me, and I ended up spending like all this money, and it never left our country. So you got to be careful how you word things. Comic books are comic books. That's an easy thing. But I did say toys and stickers, and they said, well, are there batteries in there? If there's batteries, you can't ship it overseas. Oh my God, such a nightmare to mail a comic book today.
So I try to ship to different countries sometimes, and sometimes it comes back and like
Oh yeah.
try again, you know.
And you'll never see the money again. It's not like the post office is going to reimburse you. It's kind of ridiculous, but I've successfully mailed to Mexico City, to Rome, and I have something going out to Argentina probably the end of this week. And fingers crossed, I'm doing better now. But you know, these young people, they're in their 20s and late 20s, early 30s, and they work so hard for me. I just feel like I gotta send them an original book, you know, and it's just become like this real challenge. So Penny is alive and well. It's becoming a new comic book, but it's going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be about 45 pages. It's the first volume. I think by this time next year it'll be published, and I'll be able to get it at the, 2025 Winterfest is my goal. Maybe sooner if I'm lucky. I mean, I'll also
I asked you because I remember the first time we talked to you. It was about two things. It was about all the stuff from MTV and the Penny Dreadful stuff.
I'm realizing we've known each other for a while. I didn't realize how far back we've done shows. Yeah, like you show up and I see Lewis, and it was really kind of fun. So that's kind of nice. I appreciate everything you're doing. It's when you do things grassroots and you're your own publisher, it's every little bit of help you get is great. I look forward to it.
That's exactly why we started the show, was because we would run into things and they're fantastic. They're amazing. And nobody else is talking about it. I'm like, dude, why aren't you paying attention? Look at that.
Yeah, right. I think this is the right time for independent publishers. I think especially all the backlash that like Marvel and DC have been getting for just screwing with the original characters and changing so much of what's going on. I sit there and I think, look, I'm all for equality on every level. I really am. But what made certain Marvel characters and DC characters so successful was because they were what they were, not because you changed them. And I'm all for changing little things here and there. But, the Marvel disaster is, I don't even want to tell you what my Disney stock looks like right now. It's a fraction of what it was just 5 years ago. It's so depressing. It's like, what are you doing?
Oh my God.
I mean, it seems, I don't know. It seems to be you find people who love the characters and just find the best people you can to tell, the best time you can get to tell these stories. And it's what they used to do, but I don't know, man.
I feel like now they go, we got to find the person who hates this character the most and let him write the book.
No, and but this is where I'm going to be a dissent. No, because not even that. I remember having this realization very early on, right? And we're talking the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. I remember just thinking to myself, how long can this go? Like, how long can they keep putting out more Superman books or more Batman books or more Spider-Man or more Hulk or whatever? Like, eventually, I had the Saturday morning cartoon theory, right? Which I started watching anime. And, I knew like the American cartoons, and I started watching anime. I noticed like 12 episode animes, awesome, knock out of the park. 24 episode animes had some really bad episodes. And I would remember the same thing about the Saturday morning cartoons. It would be like, okay, well, yeah, they would do like 24 episode seasons. And there would always be that one episode where Lion-O and the gang were at the beach. And, like they're just having antics because they had to fill an extra episode. And I just kind of felt like, yeah, the same thing's going to happen with the superhero books. Like they have to end them. There has to be a point where the character dies, moves on, retires, whatever, and then that's it. Make a new character. I agree with you there. That's always been my thing. Yeah.
See, and it's funny because Spider-Man, especially because Spider-Man was actually moving forward. He graduated from college. He was working. He got married. He had a kid, and we were following along with him. And then all of a sudden they decided, no, we can't do that anymore. And I'm like, dude, let him keep going.
Right.
Talk about his kid or something. Come on.
And I don't, and just
the
because
thing is that people always want something that's new. Like, well, they want what they want new on the racks right now. Like, if you end Superman comic, for example, you're gonna take away Superman from kids. You're gonna take, like, for the next generation. They're not gonna have it because.
but that's not.
This is the way it is. It's
I don't
unfortunate
think
that
that's
people
true
don't.
at all.
But no,
because
it's unfortunate that most people will not go back to it. People want things that are new. They want,
That's
to this day. Most, like, a kid's not gonna read a Superman comic from the 30s. He's not. He's just not. Like,
completely
he's gonna get
disagree
something that's new. So,
because
but that's why,
because I didn't read the Lord of the Rings until I was in college. I
Right.
love the Lord of the Rings. That book is old as shit. What are we talking about? I don't care if it's old, and neither do kids.
Right. But that was the thing. They made movies and stuff, and that brings more people into it.
I disagree with you too. When I was
I didn't need the movies though.
When I was reading the comics when I was younger, I was reading the old stuff, the really old stuff, the stuff that was 20 years older than I was.
Yeah.
And I would go back and read all that stuff.
But it's still not a lot of people. Most people still want, like, it's like where some people complain, but it's like how people complain about, I hate the way Spider-Man is now, but there are hundreds of thousands of comics that you've never read where Spider-Man is exactly how you want. Will they go back and read them? No, because they want it right now. People want what's there. Most people want what's new. They want it right now. Yeah, and it's always like that. Even like when you talk about anime, for example, like, a lot of people will not, like, oh, that anime is cool. You used to show them an old anime. Hey, you want to check this out? Like, no, I'll wait till they reboot it. I'll wait till they remake it. They'll watch the new version. They're not going to watch the old version.
That's not true at all either.
That's true also, yes.
No, I told you I was teaching in public school for 10 years. There's kids that are still watching Dragon Ball Z from when I was a kid. They're watching Speed Racer, man. Like, they don't care how old it is.
No, I'm not saying that that's everybody. I'm not saying broad, but I'm saying, like, most people, that's what it is. They want what's new. They want what's now. And I
think that's the thought process. I think that's what Marvel, DC, that's what they think. They go, we don't want to do this because they're not going to buy this. And I'm like, and then what happened when they did the Ultimate with Spider-Man and he's married? All of a sudden, all these people came out of the woodworks to buy it because, yes, they want to buy this. They want that story.
But it's new. But that's what it is. It's
not
new.
new.
They want something that's
new. It's the character.
Well, no. The ideas can be old. That's fine. I'm not talking about the idea. I'm talking about the product itself. People want what's new. It's current.
But there's the other part of it too, which is like, okay, so let's take something in that thread, right? Like The Witcher has been more popular, right? It's a newer book, so is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But I just mentioned Lord of the Rings. There's still people that go back and read Lord of the Rings. There's some people that are going to prefer Lord of the Rings to, A Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that people aren't going to keep writing fantasy books. Right. There aren't still going to be people that want to go back and read the old stuff.
There are. Like,
yeah. So I think that's the one place that the comic industry doesn't keep up with every other entertainment industry out there. They keep wanting to keep it exactly where it was.
Yeah.
And not grow.
Well, that's true. That's definitely true. I mean, it's definitely a process. I mean, it's funny. It's sometimes they make changes, and people are great. People accept them, and then they go back and change it anyway. Like you have like for example when Wally West became the Flash, most people were fine with like for example like when Hal Jordan stopped being Green Lantern, like, for years, people complained, bring Hal Jordan back. We don't like this guy. Bring him back, blah, blah, blah. They bring him back. Nobody, like, most people didn't accept Kyle Reiner. It was a good idea that he was an artist that could create anything, but he wound up not creating anything. He wound up Well, so anyway, but that's Hal Jordan. But you take Flash, like most people accepted Wally West. Most people were fine with it.
I still think Wally West is
and then like Jeff Jones came in and he was like, no. I grew up with Barry. I'm bringing back Barry, and then Barry came back. And it was like,
yeah, well, there's another.
I mean, sometimes we do accept change. Sometimes we do accept change, and people come in and they say, "Nope, I grew up with it this way, or I wanted to be this way, or I want Spider-Man to be single again, or
Right. Well, I think that's
Batman
enough.
gotta have a Robin, you know, like forget Screw Nightwing, you know.
That comes into kind of the soap opera part of it, which is that if no change is ever going to stick, how am I going to take your book seriously?
Right. Yeah.
We're gonna redo the universe every time that we think it sucks, so we can give you something fresh and new.
Well, I'll tell you, that's when I stopped reading superhero books. I'll tell you exactly when. And I know this is the stupidest thing that this really is, but it was that whole Onslaught Heroes Reborn thing. I was like, you know what? F it. I'm done. I never looked at a comic book again for, I don't know, I think 8 years or something like that. I was,
I don't blame you. That was not a great.
No.
It was that life of Captain America, right? With the big jump. Said, I'm out.
Well, I'm glad you guys remember it, because every once in a while I'll mention it to a comic fan. They're like, "What are you talking Onslaught? What do you mean?" And it's like, were you reading comics in the 90s? Remember this?
Yeah, I remember Heroes Are Born. Like every character that was in Spider-Man or X-Men, they just got reset to another universe.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, so this meant nothing. What did I waste my time for? And I just that was it.
My take on old products becoming popular again. To me, it's all part of the bell curve that, you get to a high point, things are very successful, then the public loses interest. And it could be everything from the economy, what's going on in the world. It could be, and then we have, if you look at also, I believe one of the main reasons Spider-Man in media per se, not necessarily the comic book, is so powerful and popular is because of the whole digital revolution in cinema. We can now make an actor, a live action actor, really do those things. I've always found it interesting to watch the 70s show and when the live action actor is climbing up the side. It's still in everything. It's not really Spider-Man, but the whole digital revolution, which is continuing to morph and become more interesting, it reawakens a lot of those original ideas. I was reading, just like JM, I was reading Lord of the Rings when I was in high school, and there weren't a lot of people reading it. My teachers were reading it, and they were old. They were probably in their 30s at the time. But what I think really made Lord of the Rings have this whole new renaissance is the fact that someone like Jackson decided to make the trilogy.
I agree.
And this was fantastic. This was something we had never seen before. When they had, if you read in the books, it was like a horde of 1 million elves are attacking 1 million something else. Like you could, in your mind, you're like, wow, this is fantastic. But who's going to put this on the screen? Stanley Kubrick talked about it for a decade or more. He owned the rights to the books and he wouldn't let anyone else touch it. And I'm sure he talked to Douglas Trumbull and all the great Hollywood special effects guys. And it's like, how do we do this? But the digital cinema didn't exist yet. So there was no way to revitalize it. But once Jackson did it, it was like, oh, we can redo it. And the sales on the books just went up again.
Right.
Why? Because it's a fantastic book, but people lose sight of it. So there's that bell curve. It's like kids in high school don't even know what it is. I teach college, so I go through this on a regular basis. I'll be talking to students and I'll say, all right, the character looks a little bit like a Humphrey Bogart kind of character. And they would look at me and say, Humphrey what? They don't even know what I'm talking about.
Right.
All right. And then I'll mention Celebrity Deathmatch. And these are kids who are like 18, 19. They're fresh out of high school. They're in college for the first couple of years. And they're like, Celebrity, let me think. I think my father used to watch that. And it's like, you want to talk about feeling old. I'm like, oh, geez, it's not that old.
Hey, listen, I get it because I remember talking to a middle school class and mentioning Stephen King. And they were like, who? And I'm like, the guy's still alive, guys.
Yeah,
you got to be kidding me. You don't know who Stephen King is.
And he's still successful. That's the amazing part.
Right. They're still making movies out of this stuff.
I just read, what is it called? 11/22/63.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's just what a wealth of knowledge it was. I mean, I was a child when, the Kennedy assassination happened. So I don't remember any of this, but it was fascinating to read. And you could just tell the amount of research that went into what was Texas like at the time, who liked Kennedy, who hated his guts, who was happy he was assassinated, and then what was going on in television, media, the type of food people ate, the type of drinks. They have to run to a payphone. They have to have the nickel or the dime to, wow. It was just an amazing, amazing book. And then I mentioned it in school and the students are like, Stephen King? Who?
Yeah. No,
I had an experience recently. I was talking to a writer friend, a younger writer friend, and I was going, okay, so so you take Neil Gaiman, and he goes, who?
What?
Oh, great. No, this great example. Great example. I forgot I was just out with a friend last week. He's a guitarist in the music industry. I mentioned that I like Rihanna to him. He said, who's Rihanna?
Wow.
Look, and we're the same age.
That's even worse.
Well, you know what that tells you? That kind of tells you where his mindset is. He's probably taking music very seriously, and he's listening to classic guitar.
No, and I agree with you, but that goes into this whole other part of it, which is that like the world population is so big and there's so much stuff out there that there are microcosms of fan bases. Everything doesn't have the same like widespread broad appeal across everybody, Mainstream isn't as it doesn't consume like the 90% of the population it would have consumed before. Maybe it's only mainstream might be 60-70% of the population, because there's lots of people that just aren't tapped into it.
It's funny though, because I'll say Neil Gaiman, right, and then go, who? And then I'm like, you watch the stupid show, man. What do you mean, who?
Yeah.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah,
that's even worse.
And I'm like, dude,
right?
That's the name of the writer.
Yeah.
In one of my workshops, the students were listening to. One student was listening to Beatles, and I said, "Oh, you like the Beatles?" And they said, "We just discovered it."
Yeah.
Like, you just discovered the Beatles? Did you realize they were the biggest thing in the world for decades? And they just discovered it. It must be great to be 20. I don't know.
No, I know. Again, I would meet kids that they were discovering, like Nirvana, sometimes bands like the Beatles, they'd be listening to like Led Zeppelin, and it would just be like, how come you guys got into this? Like, oh, well, our parents listened to it and I kind of liked it. So and then they would just pick it up, So it was like, I don't know. I guess that's, I maybe that comes to the heart of it. Like the generation before kind of has to pass on the
usually
the stories and the art that they want their kids to hold on to, But
I can tell you this much: I play a lot of rock and heavy metal and stuff here in the house. My daughter doesn't pay attention to what the hell I'm playing.
So you think?
Oh yeah, I know there's something getting stuck in her head, but I know half the stuff. Like she's probably like, "What? Who?"
Yeah.
One example I do use with students is my grandfather probably had this many choices of what career he could have.
Yeah.
And any student graduating college now has 10,000, 20,000 options.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think of it that way, it also it multiplies into every part of the industry. What music do you listen to? There's just an infinite amount. What movies do you watch or TV shows do you stream? It's infinite. One of the things I enjoy doing is exchanging information like this with college students, because they're like always awake, always on. And once in a while they'll say something and I'll go, I have no idea. I just found out about a Bluey. Do you guys know Bluey?
I know Bluey, but I have a kid.
I know of it. Yeah.
I don't know how I missed this. It's amazing. It's
Bluey,
this simple, animation.
Yep.
It's for little kids.
Yeah.
It's out
He's
of, I
saying
believe,
for little kids,
Australia.
but, some of those storylines.
Well, what's great about it is their sense of storytelling
Yeah.
is spectacular. They would take one little idea, just like Charlie Chaplin did, and they would stretch that one little idea for an entire 11-minute episode. And I'm sitting there going, that is classic film storytelling.
Dude.
It's just outstanding. But up till recently, I didn't know who Bluey was. I don't have little kids anymore. I don't, so why would I know Bluey?
It's even worse, Carl, because there's an episode that covers the hero's journey.
Really?
And they break it down. Really, I've sent people that way because some people go, it's the hero's journey is too complicated for me. I'm like, you got to check out this episode of Bluey. It explains the hero's journey in such a simple way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's classic. Cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But it kind of tells you it's not.
People are still getting it wrong, so they
yeah.
So.
All right, guys. I see we're at the 20 mark. We've been all geeking out here. So JM, tell them all the good stuff where they can find you.
We didn't do that yet. Oh my god. Yeah. No, I'm. Well, the links are on the bottom right there. I am the publisher at Darkfire Press, so darkfirepress.com, and then you got jmdesantis.com, which has all my links to everything I do: the art, the writing. My novels, because I just had a second novel come out in October, the Kirkland Horror, and then you've got my comics there, and I'm sort of posting to my blog again. I used to blog weekly, but then I just felt like it was taking too much time away from fiction writing, so I stopped doing that a while ago.
Well,
but
they say,
and actually, yeah. Well, I mean, if you go to my Instagram, my link tree,
it's right there.
I started using that this year. But yeah, and there's some teasers up there right now. The announcement coming soon was Chadiana, which I already dropped that here. But
you had a couple of announcements because you also did
right. Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I can't really say much else. It's Upper Deck, and I'm working on a licensed property, and it's kind of like I can really say what the licensed property is, but just to be on the safe side.
Be safe, bro. Be safe.
There's some colors and a letter in there, and that would probably tell you exactly what it is without you having to think too hard. I hope, unless you're a musician that doesn't know who Rihanna is. I'm sorry. Then maybe. I'm sorry, Travis. That was wrong.
Travis would be like, "What the heck?"
I want to say something, but there are Rihanna fans out there, so.
Yeah, but I also like Ozzy Osbourne and Bon Jovi, so I'm like all over the map. Yeah.
Ozzy,
yeah.
All right, Carl, tell people where to find you, all the good stuff. Go for it.
Yeah, I should have sent you my website because you could have put it under my name there, but it's Comic Book Kid Pub, P-U-B, and .com. So you can find Spontanea at Comic. There it is. Oh no, that's my Instagram, isn't it?
That's the Instagram, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm going to be this weekend. Let's see, you guys are going to be there, so please stop by. I'll try to look for you also at Winterfest.
Not me.
But, I'll be at Brooklyn Comic Con also this year, and also Terrificon at the Mohegan Sun.
Oh, you're going to be busy. Woo.
Hopefully, you guys will be able to stop by.
I can't.
He's on Ohio.
He's on.
Yeah. We'll let him out.
JM, you're probably going to be hitting a couple of those too, right?
Well, I won't be at Brooklyn because I think it's the same weekend as Sci-Fi Valley Con.
Okay.
In June, so I'm going to be out in Pennsylvania that weekend. But Terrificon, yeah. I mean, Terrificon's terrific. Honestly,
I've never done it before, but this is the first time.
It's really a well done show. I mean, Mitch, I'm not saying anything against any promoter because I am on good terms with every promoter that I've done their shows. But Mitch just maybe it's the location and it's just everything. I think he's just got a great thing going there. Yeah,
I've heard good things. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
There you have it, folks. And of course, this weekend at Garden State Comic Fest, you can see both JM and Carl and say hi to them and talk about all this geek stuff we were talking about today and their projects.
Yeah.
And pick up a kid in the comic.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got 4 issues. I mean, they're eight a piece, but if you want all 4, $20. That's 5 an issue. You know?
That's pretty
Wow.
good. Yeah.
We're in. We're there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's 4 issues. They're on the 4th issue right now, right?
Right. Yeah, and 5 they had to push back because of a couple of
He was telling me, yeah.
things moving around. Right. I mean, now I'm having to get a Chadiana comic done for February. So
that says a lot. That already says a lot.
yeah.
All right,
so,
folks. Do we got anything else to cover before we go?
Hey, quick. I'm gonna show off this lamp.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's that over your shoulder there, Tony?
Yeah. How well can you see it? I mean, maybe turn it.
oh, that is really cool though.
Well, this is
wow.
Otaku. This is from Otaku Lamps.
Yeah.
So got it from John Jordan over here. If you use the password Hagar HAGAR10, you can get this lamp. And like you can either plug it in, or you can use a battery. And it comes with this cool remote, so you can do like anything. Like you want it to be blue, like hit the blue button.
Yep.
Hit the blue button, but you can't see it, but it'll turn blue.
It's a
Maybe
little
try
light.
the red color. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I'm down backwards. Okay, here we go. Yeah, see, it'll turn blue.
There we go. Ooh.
Nice.
And then if you want to if you can't decide what color, you can just put fade, and it'll just let's do this right here. You can just do fade, and it'll just start turning into every color bit by bit. So it's really cool. So pick one up. JoJo, they have other anime. What other anime have? They have like Naruto and
They got
to
this, but this is
Oh, that's great.
VTubers.
cool.
Nice.
But no, they got VTubers, they got stuff from video games, animes, a little bit of everything. Right now they're doing a sale until the end of March. A lot of their stuff's Jesus, my eyes.
I was gonna say, for a little lamp, that thing is really bright.
Oh yeah. Which is why we also have the option to change how brighter it is.
I like the fact they have the little remote.
I didn't have to pay him to say that.
And
But,
of course, Jordan, you're selling this stuff. If you put a link up, I'll share it onto the chat over here on the side.
Yeah.
HAGAR10, 10% off.
Yep, right below my name.
We have a sponsor, kind of. All right.
Sort of.
It is sort of.
Yeah.
The money goes to Jordan, not to anybody. Hey.
And what Jordan is doing, I'll show off a couple of little things here. Of course, Made in the Skies is coming soon. And of course, you guys know when there's a Kickstarter, if you go to the notify page, you can get notified when the project comes up, and it actually helps the project because the more number they have before the project starts, the better it is for a Kickstarter. So go over there and sign up to get notified. It's free to do that.
It's in the chat now.
Your project, yeah.
Also, I mentioned on Monday's show that I would have something to show today.
Ooh.
I mean, you guys have already seen it, but
all right, you're going to show the Shadow Rabbit piece.
Hey.
Shadow!
Oh, nice.
That's
yes.
cool.
Can you talk a little bit about it? Or why did he make this for you?
So, over the course of a year and a half, since that's how long it's been, I've gone through idea after idea until I finally settled on this, which a couple months ago, if you don't know wrestling, or if you do, there used to be a wrestler called Bray Wyatt. Unfortunately, a few months ago, he passed away.
Yeah.
And so that ultimately led to my decision of having Lou do this for me. This is one of his personas that he had during this time of wrestling called The Fiend.
Ah, that's right.
And give me 1 second.
Oh, yeah. I forgot he did the special stuff to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Shadow is amazing. Look at that.
That is cool.
Shadow does amazing work. Folks, you guys got to go check out Shadow Rabbit and his stuff. He just does this, and he gets really creative with it.
Oh yeah.
Is Lewis going to be at Winterfest?
I will hope so. I was hoping so, but I think Lewis is kind of busy right now because he's still taking care of a baby.
Oh, those things. Yeah, I've heard about those. They demand a lot of attention.
Exactly.
Let me think. Oh yeah, I did put that link in the thing.
I'll give you a link over here. Let me take it.
But yeah, no. Me and Dark are going to be at the Michigan Horror and Oddities Fest next weekend. In Monroe, Michigan. In late March is Anna Marathon in Bowling Green, Ohio. Yeah.
That's everything, right?
Pretty much.
And of course, folks, let's hit off the Kickstarters that I got up here because I have a couple of set up. You also have Drumsticks of Doom. They have funded, folks. They are at 111, 18 days to go, 5,213. This is an amazing rock comic book. Go check it out, dude.
If you'd like to know, and then if you'd like to know more about this, other than the Kickstarter, of course, go look at Monday Show.
That's true. If you look at Monday Show, we have him on the show talking all about it. And of course, our Mata is not here today because she's kind of tired, so we gave her the day off. And she does have her Kickstarter going for Sacramento. There it is. She's at 3,214. She's at 19 days to go, folks. Come on, let's get her funded. We can do that. Let's get her a little bit more cushion there, man. Because when you're doing a Kickstarter, all you worry about is getting that thing funded. And once you get it funded, then you go, okay, I can relax, even though you're going to keep pushing it. But Mata does amazing work. Her art is fantastic. She does the art, the writing. She's a one-woman show. And my favorite quote from her is that I can't even afford to pay myself what I deserve to be paid when I'm working on my own project.
And then as far as Kickstarters that we don't have up here or the links for, in February we have Good Boy Volume 4 starting up on Kickstarter. Dirk Manning's got Homestead coming up in February, which is his Western werewolf stuff. Bad Bug's got a couple Kickstarters going on right now or coming up. Yeah,
of course. Bad Bug has Horus coming. You got to buy the rabbit.
And then there's this, which, if you want to know more about this other than the Kickstarter, we had them on last week.
Yeah. Write Wars, fantastic writing video game, folks.
Oh, wow.
You and a bunch of other people are throwing up sentences, and then you vote on which sentence makes the story. So this is fantastic. You guys got to go check it out. Write Wars, they're going to be on Kickstarter soon. Go check them out. Go check out the show. I can't say enough about this, and we'll have them back on the show again because I love the idea of writing duels.
Inspired by Jackbox.
I think that's everything, folks.
Me and Ralph
some stuff, but we got another show on Monday, so.
And then me and Ralph are also special VIPs for that game.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we signed up. We're ready to go. As soon as we do the alpha for it, I will be sharing information.
Yep.
Nice.
There you have it, folks. Anything else, JM and Carl?
I'm good. Nice meeting you all again.
Yeah. Come
Always
see us this weekend.
Exactly. Dude, you saw how much geeking out we did here on the show.
Yeah.
Go enjoy it at the con.
Yeah.
This weekend. Go.
Well,
I guess don't talk to me about superheroes. I don't know, because maybe I'm the wrong guy for that. I don't know, but no. I respect everybody's fan base. I really do. So whatever you like, honestly. Exactly. There's so much stuff out there. Yeah.
So just geek out, folks. And with that, I'll do what I always do on the Written Writ. I'll press the button
and we're done.